It's a plane. That's an airplane. That's what this week is about right there. We asked you for video responses with your airplane stories, and many of you submitted. We couldn't possibly use all of them, but we picked some of our favorites, and here they are. Enjoy.
When I was a kid, my big sister told me that whenever I got angry or anxious or upset or sad, to write a letter.
I felt the pressure in my body change as the wheels lifted off the ground, pressing me into my seat as gravity tried hard not to let go of its grasp.
I have the dubious distinction of having flown into Japan with a live round of ammunition.
But with the roar of the engines, the jet was having none of it as it lumbered into the sky.
I was ceded to a middle-aged Japanese woman. I had studied Japanese in college, and I was anxious to try out my language skills.
All I know is that they put me in the chair, and suddenly I got free drinks and peanuts.
The next thing I knew, I was in conversation.
I didn't know that you were allowed to just ask the stewardesses to give you more peanuts.
So desu ne. Oh, omoshiroi desu.
And I went row by row asking strangers for their peanuts.
Did she know that my Japanese sucked? I have no idea.
Looking out, the world began to shrink away, getting ever smaller.
My best friend in our junior year of high school, for my 17th birthday, got me an airplane ride.
My dad had an airplane of his own.
They flew us up and around my house.
In about half an hour, he essentially taught me how to fly the plane.
And around my friends' houses, and around the waterfalls that I live by.
And my dad fell asleep while I was flying it.
It was absolutely amazing, and I will never, ever, ever forget it.
Write about whatever was making me feel bad and get everything out.
Okay, so here I am at 7,000 feet above the sea level. I've been flying for, what do you say, the past 30 minutes?
Probably. Before the flight crew didn't check to see if any of their equipment was strapped down or if any of us were belted in properly.
We're about halfway into the air when this smell just wafts through the entire cabin.
Somebody kept on farting.
Houses and developments began to look like squiggled lines, and the land just ends into the Great Lake to the north.
And as we're coming down, you've got to remember I'm about 4 or 5 years old now, and all I can see is just we're going down and down quite quickly, just into a big blue ocean.
Everybody flies out of their seat, a cooler opens up, and sandwiches start to just, levitate in front of people.
Then take the letter and fold it into a paper airplane.
Puffy clouds hang above the horizon in the distance, moving ever slowly in a sea of white. This is the part where you hope buying Explosions in the Sky albums before your flight doesn't turn into foreshadowing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I apologize for the smell some of you may have detected. Last night, the plane flew into a flock of bats.
And I started screaming my head off, and of course, everyone behind the cockpit could hear this little child shouting, "We're gonna crash! We're gonna crash! We're gonna crash!"
And on the way back, about 5 hours into the flight, some guy threw one of his crappy airplane pillows a few rows back and started this massive pillow fight.
This happened for about 15 to 30 seconds, and then suddenly the plane leveled off and everybody collapsed back down onto the belly of the plane.
As we ascend, the world outside turns white, and the world below is gone.
The last time I was on an airplane, my daddy snuck me out of my carrier and I got to ride on his lap.
Maybe it's common for cats to be on airplanes, but I didn't think so.
When I was about 6, my dad pulled out my very first tooth while we were on an airplane.
When I was around 5, my dad bought an airplane.
Make an airplane out of everything bad in your life.
The sea of clouds begins to take texture, no longer a sea of white glass.
Finally, I get to go on this airplane. I'm like shaking. It's really exciting. It's my first airplane ride.
Fold it to condense your problems, because as the paper takes up less room on the table, your problems will take up less room on your mind.
And then we started clapping. Somebody a few rows away heard this because they started clapping too. We take off and the plane gets higher and higher and higher. The whole plane was applauding. The anxiety kind of turns into adrenaline, and it's like, man, I am on top of the world.
The tiny world below you, with its tiny cars, tiny houses, and tiny roads, reminds you of just how small we all are.
I feel bigger. I feel like a better person. I feel bigger. I feel like I can do anything, because if somebody can build an airplane, what can I do?
Thanks for watching, everybody. This was great. I don't think I've conquered my fear of flying, but I do think I understand it better. And I hope that we've helped you appreciate these amazing modern marvels, so that next time when you fly and you get off the plane, you'll be like, I was flying! I was flying! Every time. Every single time. Well, if you're younger, you may want to not do that with your parents around. Maybe just say I was flying. Now that I'm an expert and only slightly afraid of flying, it's time to take this baby for a spin.
All